That's it. Is Russell Hunter's the Brewmance, eclipsing all other local talk radio. That's Rob Hunter right there. And when I say right there, I mean it's 7 o'clock where he is. He's in Florida, I believe. Is that right, Rob?
That is correct.
I never know where you are. I rarely
never know where I am. It's been fantastic since we've left the radio station. I've been to 4 countries and like 4 or 5 states. Just moving around.
Yeah, I went to Florence. I went to let's see here. I went to Prescott, and I went to what else did I go? Yeah, Flagstaff. Yeah,
Torrance, Arizona, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so hey, this one. What's up, Betty? Good to see you. It is a Eclipse day. This was monopolizing news. Either we really have nothing going on. This is the greatest nation in the world still. And then we have that to worry about. That's what we're going to cover on our news 24/7 is the damn eclipse, which was a giant nothing here in the state of Arizona, except a tiny little sliver of something. And it looked like cloud cover briefly over the sun. And then boom, there's somebody here. Hi. Wow. Hello. This is live as it gets. There we go. So, but there was this tiny little sliver, and basically nothing happened. To lead up to this, though, was the crazy part to me. There were emergency organizations, state by state, that were, at least in the pattern of the eclipse, that were giving recommendations on what you need to do and have ready for you. You need to have ample food and water. You need to, they said, keep filling up, topping off your gas tanks, and to make sure that you have bug out bags, or get home bags is what they were calling them. We call them bug out bags. But have some sort of bug out bags and be prepared as if this was going to be a natural disaster. It was 3 minutes of maybe darkness, like cloud cover darkness, like ooh, it's raining outside. Look, it's dark. That's it. What have we done? What have we become?
We pandemiced ourselves. Everything has become a national emergency, and the only people smart enough are government bureaucrats to tell you how to live your life. That I think that was. Oh, man, it just makes me think of all those things, Mike, going back to the pandemic and all the things you were told, 6 feet apart, wear your mask. The government apparently has decided that that's going to be the method, that everyone is a moron and cannot figure out how to live on their own. Yet we all somehow did it during the pandemic. I don't know, maybe it's just what do you call that? When you have to justify your job? maybe that's what this was.
How the hell did we survive this many centuries as a species? How did we make it? How did we survive not having somebody tell us who to vote for, not having somebody tell us what to do when the lights go out, for the love of grief? We're obviously a pretty resilient species. If we can survive this stuff on our own, handle a little bit of less light for 3 minutes on my Monday, I think I got that. I think I got that covered. I have my bug out bags. I have my ammo. My gas cans topped off. I have food. I have water. I have shelter. I got everything I need. But I didn't think I was going to need it today.
Yeah, I didn't watch any media coverage today because I don't really watch media coverage anymore. I was aware that the eclipse was going on because I have a phone, and it told me 74 times that there was an eclipse today. So I get this idea, right? The eclipse. But I remember when I used to think eclipses were rare. I saw a quote today. Yeah, remember when this is a once-in-a-lifetime eclipse that happened 5 years ago. So I guess that's the other part, too, is the media is just so darn predictable. That's why I don't watch it anymore. I haven't watched local television news. Mike and I worked on KFYI for 7 years together, 6 years together, 4 as 3.5 as Russell and Hunter. I didn't watch television news one time during that span.
Well, obviously you're getting outside. Do we have sunscreen over there at the house?
Yeah.
You got some, buddy, you're burnt.
I feel good.
Oh, he's like, it's about like the base, it'll peel off. It'd be a nice base tan. Yeah. You need a solar eclipse. Is what you need, man.
Well, that's why I got burnt. That's why I thought it was going to be more of an eclipse. It was only a partial,
Yeah. I did that once. Oh, man. I'm not putting sunscreen on. It's totally cloudy outside. Oh, my God. I peeled for like 3 weeks. My German, Scotch, Irish, pasty self. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
But the best was to me, I believe, and I just is a Newsmax, which phenomenal eclipse covers the question of the entire eclipse, all of this dust up of the eclipse. This was the question. Ready for this? It's unbelievable. Do you think that during these few moments of darkness, during the full eclipse, that there will be a surge of illegal migrants coming across the border, taking advantage of this opportunity? Can't make it up. You can't make that up.
Have you been aware of the last 3 years? They don't need eclipse. They don't need darkness. They just walk right in the middle of the day. There's no problem at all. There's no barrier. It's super easy. Mike and I literally witnessed it happen in the middle of the morning.
Yeah, and if anything else, they're like, I don't want to watch dark out there, man. There's snakes out there. I'll wait till the eclipse is over, and then I'll just walk up to the green and white and say, "Hi, I'm here. Welcome to the United States." Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I just feel, Mike, that we're in this trap of stupidity everywhere you go, and I really think it is a leftover from the pandemic, when apparently people were so panicked they couldn't figure out how to live their own lives. And they needed people like Anthony Fauci to tell you to not go outside, and don't go out to eat, and don't do this, and don't do that, because you're probably going to die if you get COVID. Yet meanwhile, just about all of us who got COVID didn't die. And those of us that died of COVID didn't actually die of COVID. So I don't know if the government continues to treat us all like morons, and the media continues to treat us all like morons, and this is just a leftover portion of it. But it does seem like it's fast forward on the stupidity. Like, seriously, Newsmax, you're asking that question?
And that the only people that don't change the channel when that happens are really, really stupid people, or people that just have it on in the background, and that's why they have any kind of ratings, because it's just on in the background while, just kind of it's the battle of noise between that and the Roomba that's running through the house all day. So there's no way people can say, you know what, I'm going to tune in Newsmax because I don't know what I'm going to do with this eclipse. I mean, it might be a complete surge at the border. I tell you, I heard that. Are you bleeping kidding me? But there are people that will believe it. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was looking up some stats the other day, and it was like the Today Show, the morning show that used to have Matt Lauer. Back in the day, like 25, 30 million people watched that. Today, less than 3 million people watch it, because what Mike just said is the reality of what the media thinks. The media thinks everyone out here in America is tuned in. We're sitting on the edge of our couches waiting for them to detail their brilliance, when Mike is right. Most of the time, we just like a little background noise while we're getting ready for work. And it just happened to be that it was the Today Show. We weren't actively watching the Today Show. It was just one of 7 options you had in the mornings in the 90s.
Yeah, it just happened to me today. I roll over. I stopped in on the way over here, stopped in at my girlfriend's house, and I'm like, are you watching this? Some daytime talk stupidness. I was like, are you really watching it? She's like, I didn't realize the dang thing was on. Like, it's just on. It's been on since the eclipse coverage I was watching this morning, and I just haven't changed channels. Like, that's actually the survival technique of the majority of shows, because there's no way they could survive if people actually paid attention to the craptastic content that's going on in there. And by the way, that was back in, like, remember the Brian Gumble, Jane Pauley days? Today Show was it. Like, if you were on the Today Show, you did something. You were somebody getting on the Today Show. And now it's just the equivalent of you were a headline on Drudge at one point, and then that's it. Bingo. It's just it's down to nothing. That people think, oh my gosh, they were reporting that on Today's Show. Good, no one knows. No one knows. I'd be surprised actually in today's day and age how many people actually knew there was an eclipse going on. You think about that.
You think?
I mean, we're news consumers. I mean, we understand this because we keep our nose to the grindstone here. We keep our ear to the ground, so we know what's going on. But I mean, most of the people just going to work didn't even know there was an eclipse today.
Deanna just wrote, she saw one of the View hosts blaming climate change for the eclipse. But see, this is why some people shouldn't talk about things for a living.
Did you see Greta Thunberg got arrested? Speaking of climate change, Greta Thunberg got arrested again. Yeah. Smiling all the way, cameras right there in front of her, all the way to the, you can't see. Oh yeah, it's our show now. I can say anything I want. All the way to the paddy wagon, right on in there. Yeah, it's okay. It's only insulting to Irishmen, and I'm Irish, so it's okay. So all the way to the paddy wagon, all set up, ready to go. If you don't remember the last time she was arrested, at least for the cameras, it was okay. Wait, guys, hold on, wait. Okay, get this. Okay, good. And then the cops took her when she was ready for the camera to be right on her and ready to go.
Everything's a publicity stunt.
And by the way, I found a cool question to ask these climate alarmists. This is my favorite thing to ask. Can you name one time in Earth's history where the climate was stable? Go ahead, I'll wait.
Plus, who actually would even know that?
That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that climate is not a stable thing in this earth, historically. It's just not. So, climate is changing. Well, yeah, climate is changing. That's like saying oxygen is in the air. Let's spend trillions of dollars to make sure we regulate the oxygen in the air. No, the Earth's got this. It's okay.
Well, and let's say, all right, let's say that it is. It's caused by us, at least a little bit. Let's even say that 30% of climate change is caused by us. What are we going to do about it? Because driving electric cars isn't the answer. Going wind isn't the answer. Going solar isn't the answer. So, great. You're just trying to make me feel guilty about being alive like you always try to do on the news. And you always try to blame me for driving. Oh, you guys are so horrible. Meanwhile, the people telling you this fly in private jets all the time. Meanwhile, the people that tell you this drive in SUVs to work that are, driven by someone else. It's completely obnoxious. Like Greta herself has probably traveled more miles than I have. And I've traveled a lot of miles in my life. So Greta has most likely contributed more to climate change than I have.
Easily. And apparently she got the green implants. Del, exactly what I was thinking when I saw the video. I was like, hey, wait a second. When did those things arrive? Yeah. Yeah, it looks. Yeah, she's doing some cosmetic enhancements. It would seem she's doing some cosmetic enhancements, but I'm sure it's for the betterment of the globe.
Well, I'm sure that it was completely.
Is this globes? No. Okay, sorry.
Oh boy,
I'll stop.
The things I missed by only paying attention to news when I want to pay attention to news, which is a lot smaller.
So fast.
Yeah,
it all happens so damn fast, though.
Well, and everything's controversial, everything's awful, and everything's horrible, and oh my god, it's like, okay, I'm good, thanks. I'm just gonna focus on me and what I can do in my life.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, as long as I still have X, I got Twitter. It's good. We got some free speech going on. As long as it's on Twitter. And I got to tell you that I don't know if you saw this, Rob. What's happening in Brazil? Brazil is now suing Elon Musk and basically trying to ban Twitter down there because he would not suspend the accounts in Brazil that the new leadership wanted him to suspend because there were opposition speech. So he would not stop that. So now they are essentially either going to shut down all of X in Brazil, or they're going to, Elon was doing, here's how to have a VPN, guys. This is easy. Don't worry about it. You can still have it down there. But yeah, it's interesting to me because several years ago, Bernie Sanders, was on a podcast talking about the Biden administration and all of the goons they sent down there for their election to make sure that this guy was essentially the one that was there. And now he's taking on one of the biggest threats to them as the Biden administration, Elon Musk.
Well, yeah, and this is the whole suing thing is, if you look at the last, 10 years, and if you fast forward it, everything is a lawsuit now. Lawfaring is the term that it's come known as, and I didn't really hear about it until Carrie Lake talked about it. Carrie Lake, when she ran for governor and she lost, and then she spewed all this stuff about the election was stolen and the Maricopa County recorders in charge of the elections is corrupt, and she had no proof. So Stephen Richer sued her for defamation. Carrie Lake a couple weeks ago says, fine, I'm taking myself out of that lawsuit as Mike's light changes right there in front of our eyes.
It's crazy.
You should have like a rotating strobe light or something like Studio.
No, because I leaned on the desk and it did this. So it did one of these things. I leaned on the desk. I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all. Get in with me here. Yeah.
Russell Hunter becomes a club on Monday nights.
Okay. We're just going to leave it at that. Holy. Sorry.
So in her video, Carrie Lake says lawfaring, right? She does Stephen Richer's lawfaring. I'm like, okay, so how many lawsuits did you file during right after the election? So does it only count sometimes? But my point in bringing all of it up, it just seems like what we do and what a large part of Russell and Hunter was covering court cases and court decisions and Supreme Court decisions, because we are thinking that the Supreme Court is the only thing that can weigh in on any issue now to decide whether it's right or wrong, constitutional or not. And to me, who's making money off that? Because as Schweikert always tells us, Congressman David Schweikert, it's always about the money. So I look at the system now as a money system, as You create an economy. I'll use insurance, health insurance, car insurance as an example. So if you bought a car in like 1922, probably no insurance. You're just responsible for your car. But eventually we have lawsuits related to insurance, car accidents, whatever. So, create this insurance industry. And in the medical sense, medical insurance is an extra economy that wasn't there for a long time, because now you have all these middlemen and middlewomen who do all this insurance billing, insurance adjusting. So that you have this industry that became of it, probably some entrepreneurial mind, right? Like, I can do this and make a ton of money because I can get insurance money from 1,000 people and I'm only going to have to pay one or two at a time. So this becomes this entire industry of money. Same thing with lawyers, is that lawyers charge a lot of money per hour. Mike, you know the going rate, I think.
Can you? Yeah, because I'm at the end of the divorce. And let me tell you something. Yeah, the only one that wins in a divorce is your attorney. Period.
Bingo.
I sure as hell didn't win. Yeah. But I'm not bitter, Rob. I'm not bitter at all. No,
I was thinking more of your head trauma that you suffered.
Oh, thanks,
at the
pal.
hands
Sorry.
of someone else.
Okay, I'm going to that one. Yeah, that too. I have a legal team that would make OJ blush. I'm telling you.
Yep.
It's
and they ain't cheap.
Impressive.
They ain't cheap. Nope.
Man,
yeah,
I'm telling you, I'd be broadcasting from my spot in Florida if this weren't the case.
For sure. Well, that's why we have friends. We stay at friends' houses. It's just way easier. Yeah. Well, this other part about, the lawyer fees, and that's really what makes all of this go around to me. So there, even in the Eclipse thing, right? You were saying something that a radio station we used to be affiliated at, not our last one, the one prior to that, did segments on the economy of the solar eclipse.
Literally bell to bell on the eclipse that no one ever cared about. Fantastic. Just fantastic. No, but it does become an economy. So I was chatting earlier today about Colorado going off the absolute rails with gun control, and because if they pass more laws, that means guns are everything's going to be safe now because they're going to pass laws.
That's worked so far.
One of the House bills that is actually going to the floor for a vote is a liability insurance mandate for all firearm owners to have exactly. So and the only one that wins there are the insurance companies. Period.
All about the money.
The only one that wins. Why would I want to have an insurance policy for mine? I don't even have health insurance. I don't need it. I have cash rates. I have doctors I can pay cash rates to. I'm good. So I don't understand why if one of my firearms decides to get out of the safe and go pop somebody, I'm going to have to pay one of my attorneys. That's fine. I'm not going to have insurance for that. It's a bunch of nonsense. Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to do that where?
Colorado.
That is Colorado. Okay. Thought you said that. So I just want to make sure. Colorado. So, right. And here's the idea behind that. And again, Mike and I have talked to you about this. Instead of the day-to-day operations, which distract us, if you step back and you look at the games that they're playing, the long-term strategy that Republicans used on Roe versus Wade, it was like a 40-year struggle, right? To get it up to the Supreme Court, to get Roe versus Wade overturned. Democrats like, cool, we're going to do that on your Second Amendment. Maybe it's going to be harder. Maybe it's going to be challenging. Maybe it's going to take 40 years, but they're going to take Democrat states like Colorado has become, a state like Illinois. Illinois banned quote unquote assault rifles a couple of years ago because they want it to be challenged. They literally want it to be so they can bring it up to a court and see how they get and see what happens, because eventually the tide will turn, at least they hope, and the Democrats might have a 6-3 advantage on the Supreme Court. And if the Democrats have a 6-3 advantage on the Supreme Court, you never know what's going to happen. And that's it. So Colorado's stepping in to add a little bit of money to it, that if you want to own a firearm, you're going to have to pay a little bit of money. And maybe it's a lot of money. And then maybe eventually you get priced out and you say, it's just not worth having a firearm anymore because I got to spend $700 a year to insure it. Is the insurance going to be more than the firearm? That's the question.
No. That's not it, buddy. That's not it. There's also another bill that just escaped committee that is putting a punitive tax on top of ammunition and firearms.
A punitive tax.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Basically, I want to punish you if you want to participate in the Second Amendment. Your God-given constitutional rights. We're going to punish you for that.
Well, and let's add that
third
element. Absolutely. Add that third element with the city of Chicago and what they're doing too, because it's all about money.
It's just, but it's about pricing people out. And back in the day, if you go back to the 1930s, back when, the big mobs were running the joint, the reason why silencers and full auto have tax stamps is because the $215, I believe, $215-ish tax stamp that you have to pay if you want to basically get approved for one of those firearms or a silencer, is because they did that to price even mobsters out of the market, because that was actually, I believe it was $3,800, the equivalent to $3,800 back in the day. So back when that was enacted, the $215 was about almost $4,000. So basically you just, couldn't buy one legally without mortgaging the house. And I'm sure a house is about the same price. It basically costs what a house does. And right. And so now, because government's government and their government, it's $215 today. Doesn't exactly price you out of the market. But if you keep adding those things on, who's going to be able to afford a firearm? And that only hurts law-abiding citizens that are going to Sportsman's, going to Bass Pro, going to the gun shop and buying a firearm legally, filling out a background check and doing all that stuff that you're supposed to do. They're going to get smacked over the head with now having to have insurance, and on top of that, a big fat tax stamp.
And bring the city of Chicago back in, because as Mike pointed out before the show, I didn't hear the story until Mike told me, the city of Chicago is suing Glock Manufacturing because another company made an add-on that you can put on a Glock and essentially turn it into an automatic handgun. Yeah, so it's not a Glock product, but Glock is going to have to spend money on their lawyers defending this in court to try to get it thrown out, because it just seems it should be thrown out on standing anyways. You're suing a company that has nothing to do with this other thing, but we're going to sue you anyways, and you're going to waste the city of Chicago's taxpayer dollars doing it as well.
Okay, on top, well, no, every town's behind it, so it's Bloomberg money is coming through on that one. Mm-hmm. So they, or any town, every town, whatever stupid gun control nonsense he's got going on. But what was the term you used there, buddy, with Carrie Lake about the legal stuff? Okay, lawfaring. So you can lawfaring. I don't even know if judge shopping is or court shopping is part of that, but I mean that's what they've done. So the reason why this does get to court is you have a liberal judge that doesn't want guns around and thinks that yes, we should take it to those gun manufacturers, and I'm going to help along the way. And all of these activist judges, it's easy to get in there. You understand this. This Glock switch, that's what it's dubbed. It's not. It's called a Glock switch.
Not made by Glock.
It's illegal. It's illegal federally. It's illegal. It's already illegal. What are you going to do? So Glock is get their hands in here going, we're spending all this money on something that's already illegal and we don't even make. But you want us to change our decades-old design because somebody came out with something you can add to it? You're going to sue me for that? Pound sand, dude. Just knock this off.
And I think that this is really the essence, Mike, of where a lot of the frustration, I guess we'll call it our side, right? And there are differences on our side on all kinds of different issues, but we'll call it our side. And this is the thing that I focused on the most in my 23-year talk radio career, was that this whole system is not really meant to benefit you. Yeah, there's great opportunities for all of us that we can go navigate our own system. However, let's talk specifically about our rights, whether that's the right to speak freely, which is casually, not so casually, being eroded in every possible way that the government can. It's sped up during the pandemic. Don't get me started on the Fourth Amendment, because I think that is a shell of what the founders intended it to be, that it's supposed to be difficult for the government to investigate you, to arrest you, to charge you with a crime. It just doesn't seem that that's the case anymore. In fact, there's a story, Mike, about swatting. We talked about this last week. It's over in the UK, but swatting is the practice where I could call and say, that Mike Russell, he is such a terrorist. He wanted to be there on January 6th. He wants to overthrow the government. He's got 19 rifles. I could say all this stuff. I mean, Mike only has 15 rifles, so I would exaggerate a little bit.
Ish. You're within the margin of error. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the police could go to Mike's house based on my anonymous tip. Well, in England, it happened. Someone was swatted. That person was killed by the cops. Innocent person, wasn't supposed to be there, but is now dead. So that's an erosion of the Fourth Amendment right there. I mean, obviously UK, but we've had similar stories where no-knock raids have been on the wrong house and the homeowner's dead because the cops got it wrong. And to me, I'm like, that is exactly what the Founding Fathers said the Fourth Amendment is for, not that. So bring it back to the Second Amendment. It's the same thing. It's always this ebb and flow about what's legal, what's not, what we're going to challenge, what we're not going to challenge, because the end goal is to do the same that they've done to the First, the Fourth, probably the Eighth, Ninth, and 10th. I don't know. I don't know those amendments as well as I used to.
Keeping the 21st around, we're good.
That's right. That's a very important one.
Yeah, 21st Amendment. They ain't changing that. There's nobody going after a long game on that one. No way, no day. And Lynn, it's good you asked this, and I love your stance on this. It said, I'm for your right to have a gun, but I don't care to own one myself. Right on. Exactly. And that's the way it should be. I'm all for your right to be really mean with your speech and to come after Rob and his sunburn and all that stuff. But you know something? I don't care to make fun of him. I love the man. I just think he looks fun.
You can make fun of me. It's okay.
But see, that's the thing. I love that attitude because this was such an important, and you asked if there was a musket law. There was. It was the Second Amendment. Have one. That was it. Arm yourself.
Yes.
Yes. Arm yourself. Please, everyone get one. That was basically the musket law back in the day was, but you need this. And there's reasons why you need this.
Well, there was less police back then. You had to protect your land. People could come try to take it. There's all kinds of various reasons to own a firearm. We're taking on the Empire of Britain. All good reasons, right? Yeah. But Lynn, I'd be curious because I thought like Lynn for a long time. So Lynn, if you would in the chat, since you brought that up, you're for our right to own a gun, but don't care to own one yourself. I'd be curious as to why, just to see what you have to say there. And again, you guys chime in anytime. Share this with your friends. Russell and Hunters, the Brewmance, we're back with you. I'm becoming less political. It just because I want results, Mike, and I want to talk about the system and how it really just tries to crush us, I think. It tries to crush our spirit. It tries to crush our freedoms. It tries to take our money out of our bank accounts via taxes and inflation and other things, fees.
And by the way, Lynn, if just ask. I mean, if you do, if you have questions about firearms, you want to hang out and go shoot, just let us know. I worked on Rob for years, and I really mean that because I wanted that for my little brother. I want him to be able to protect his home. I want him to be able to have fun and go out and shoot clays and go shoot targets. And I wanted him to be able to hunt, and I want him to be able to do all of that kind of stuff. So it wasn't like I was just, trying to indoctrinate him or pull him into anywhere. I just wanted him to have that, to practice that Second Amendment right of his from a man that carries it in his pocket, the Constitution. There's a reason why we have the second. We should give that a shot sometime, if you know what I mean. A shot. I'm full of dad jokes today. I'm just going to keep them flowing. You guys just got it going out. Yeah.
Justin called them freedom seeds.
Yeah, you're darn right. They're freedom seeds. And there's already a tax on it. We talk about the Colorado law where they're going to put a punitive tax on top of it. Understand, there's already an 11% tax, an excise tax above what we normally pay. So if you're in a 9% place, you have 9% sales tax where you are. You're paying 20% sales tax for your firearm and your bullets. Did you know that? That funds conservation. That funds game and fish departments in every single city, every state in the nation. All 50 states get called Pittman-Robertson. All call them PNR funds. So all that money gets pooled together and distributed to the states for conservation of here, at least here in Arizona, 820 species of wildlife. That gets funded by firearm owners. Outdoorsmen and women, we fund it. We're the front line of conservation. But then you take it on top of that. So you're doing 9%. Then you have the 11% excess tax already. And then in Colorado, we're going to do another 10%. Come on. I mean, come on. You're going to run firearm stores out of business, which is their goal. But you're going to run out of shops because people aren't going to be able to afford a firearm there. So people are going to now have to go across state lines. It's just going to be a bad situation there in Colorado. They think they're helping, but they're not.
Well, of course, they're helping what they want. No doubt about that. And Lynn does have a good answer that he uses a walker and only has use of one hand. So I get that. But there might be a workaround with that.
Firearm? I was thinking of one hand, man. We can, hey, come on, man. We can
work with it.
Because
Mhm.
you know where my head goes. I'm thinking about 50 cal mounted walker. Like you could mount something to the walker. I'm totally okay with that. Then you come with me on it. We're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. My buddy Lynn, there's a buddy of mine, Dan Ferraro, who runs No Excuse Hunting, and he is blind, like blind. Rob's met him. Dude can't
Mhm.
see anything, and he hunts. So there's ways. There's ways. Yeah, and just how he does it is there's something called a Tacticam. It's basically a sight on top of the rifle that has basically Bluetooth to a device to a guide behind him that can help him move the crosshairs and get where he needs to go. So
Yeah,
it's
which
rad.
I
I'm
mean,
telling you, you can, Lynn. If you want, we can, but no pressure. We're not trying to pressure you to do it. But if you want, man, don't let that hold you back, oh, man. Do not.
and that's
What's up, Rhonda?
what I love most about gun owners is they're always willing to help. I did a close quarters combat training recently. These guys, Method Endeavors, are based here in the Valley. Former SEAL support guys, like really bad A's, if you know what I mean. And, we were doing these room clearings and they put on this laser system, Mike, and you have to take apart the rifle. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I had Devin from Method. He's like, yeah, I got you. Here you go.
Yeah.
Just like that. Show me what to do. Pop this, do this, do this. I'm like, oh, okay. That's always when I've been around good firearm owners like Mike, always willing to say, no, this is what you do. Here are the 4 rules.
Oh,
You always treat it like loaded being number 1, right? And don't point that thing at anybody. Come on, man. Unless you tend to destroy.
Did you see the head of the ATF on 60 Minutes? I think it was a month and a half ago. He was talking about ghost guns and all this, and he could not take apart a gun. He just basically couldn't even take a slide of. Just kept trying to rack it. Just kept on doing this whole thing, doing this. He's let me try a different gun. This might be stuck, and he keeps doing this. He's the head of the ATF. I'm like, that is just brilliant. Right, can't break down a firearm.
Wow.
ATF. Mm-hmm. That's like ATF. Okay, so he probably can't even light a cigarette. I don't know how this thing works.
That guy is no fun. No fun whatsoever.
No, because alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, that's a good time to me. That's a damn good weekend.
Yeah, that's a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday,
Dude,
maybe a Tuesday.
But let's be honest.
Cigars lately, Mike. So my tobacco intake has been cigars recently. It's been kind of fun getting back into the cigar space. It's been a while.
Yeah, last time I went hunting, because my whole thing, this, when I hunt, I dip. And last time I went, I just kind of threw it in my lip and I was like, done. Oh, I guess it's yeah. But I dig a good cigar, man. You gotta let me know where you're going. We gotta head up out here in the West Valley. You got that fine ash out here. It's pretty cool. So have a drink.
Let's do it.
Sit out on the patio. What people watch at Westgate. Yeah, let's make it happen. I'm down with that. Down with that program.
Maybe we could have. So this is something. I'm just gonna throw something out randomly because that was a good idea, Mike. I don't know. Maybe we could have a Russell and Hunter Brewmance event at some point if you guys would be interested in attending. If we did it at a cigar shop or we did it at a brewery or something or whatever, if you guys are interested, let us know and we'll see what we can make happen.
Do I have? Oh, wait a second. Oh, see. Yeah, we're gonna have to look into that one, Dan. Hold on.
But Lynn said you're drawing them in, though.
I know.
That's how it works, man. That's how it worked on me too. All right.
Dan, I'm telling you, I can break down a firearm. I clean firearms, take them apart, put them together. When we're talking about fire pins and mechanisms and things like that, it's best to go to a actual gunsmith. I am not a gunsmith. I would love to be gunsmith trained. I know there's a pretty big school here for gunsmithing that I would love to just go. Maybe there's a associate's class or something where I get the little speed course, maybe to help me out through some of those things. But I'm telling you, it's I don't even reload. Everyone always asks me, hey, do you reload? I'm like, nope. Above my pay grade. I do not want to deal with explosives. Nope, not me. I'm just going to go ahead and buy them. Just going to go ahead and buy them.
Eddie says his son is a gunsmith. And there are men here in the Valley, Indiana. There you go. See, we're just making connections here in the Russell and Hunter room,
That's right. And Dell, thanks. Dell was at that Oso Arcadia. That was the OG. That was our very first. That was it's a dry hop, wasn't it? This a dry hop? Our jalapeno beer, our dry hopped jalapeno beer.
By the way, to our credit, at Oso, we made 3 beers. 2 of the 3 were amongst the best sellers ever of guest brews. So, we'll give Matt. He helped us brew it, but we were there.
Oh, Matt's a genius. Yeah, trust me, we're the knuckleheads just sat there and drank while he made the beer. That's really what
Hey,
it
we
was.
did some mash tin thing, something or other. We put some hops in.
It's the mash tun turn, buddy.
Yeah, see, we did that.
Which has become the only dance I do when the music starts playing. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not going to show you. No, maybe it'll be on the Russell and Hunter bonus. Huh?
You already had a strobe
Hold
light.
on, let me see what I got. Hold on.
Oh, there it is.
That's the mash tun turn, y'all. It's the mash tun turn. Yeah.
Turn that mash, baby. Make that beer. Turn that mash.
I'm telling you, mash tun turn. We have topics we're actually going to talk about. Yeah.
We do.
But I did see a question up here that I do want to get to. This is is there a way? Is there a way? And Robbie, you're talking about getting out, totally backing away from just the politics of it all because you want to see results. Is there a way? Do you see a way forward with getting rid of the corruption in electoral politics? Because I don't know who said it. I believe, I think it was like Thomas Paine or so. It was way back in the day that the natural trajectory of any man in power is tyranny. And it just is. I think truer words were never spoken.
No, I mean, John Adams, second president's a perfect example of that. We brought this up a couple weeks ago, too. So John Adams, there was a war that happened during his administration, and he didn't like that people criticized him over his handling of it. So he passed the Alien and Sedition Acts. Well, I don't know if he did it. I can't remember all the particulars of Congress did it. He did it, whatever it was. But they did it, which went against the First Amendment, which would only pass like 9 years before that or something like that. So within 9 years, we already had a president basically give a middle finger to the First Amendment because it was a time of war. And FDR used it later when he put Japanese in internment camps. It wasn't the same act, but it was the same repression, that same Hitler's doing this to Jews, but we'll just do it, not kill everybody. But we'll still do it. We'll still put them in concentration camps.
That's like democratic socialism. It's socialism, but it's democratic, so it's a lot nicer.
Exactly. There's no ovens. It's fine,
Yeah, well, it's fine. It's a camp. It's a summer camp. It's not an internment camp, and it's not a concentration camp. It's just a camp.
We're doing it. It's for their own safety.
Did you remember that was a miniseries Adams with Paul Giamatti was John Adams? Remember that?
It's good.
Solid
series. Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel. Yeah. If you're a history buff, I highly recommend. Yes, definitely recommend. So yeah,
agreed.
Everybody's going off on an event. Everybody's planning the event over here, bud.
I love this. But you know what? It's actually really good. So, comment where you guys are at too, so we can try to find a center location, or maybe there's different options that we can do throughout 2024 going into 2025. But I want to try to answer that question, Mike. And I optimistically, I say yes. But optimistically, it would require a massive wake up to what politics really is. And this is where I'm interested in talking about politics, as I find it mostly to be a facade to try to drum up people's emotions, to try to get them to do something, which primarily means to vote, maybe to call a congressperson at one point, because congressmen and women sometimes make decisions based on how angry the phone callers are. So if you drum up the anger, and I want to give you this story though, because this is real. As Schweikert sent me something this week, a story in the local newspaper, but this is fascinating. It's actually election fraud. So Schweikert is in Congressional District 1, happens to be my district. It's a very tight district. Schweikert has faced some pretty severe Democrat opposition. It's actually a Democrat +2 district, but he keeps winning. But here's what happened. Democrats, people tied to progressive groups, went out and got signatures for a libertarian candidate to run for Congress in CD1. But there's at least 4 people who signed the petition that said, that is not my signature. So the allegation is that these progressive groups are forging signatures to get a libertarian on the ballot in hopes that the libertarian draws enough support away from Schweikert that a Democrat could win in CD1. So that's dirty. So that's the corruption you're talking about, Mike. And yes. I think the only way for us to do that is to spread the word and wake up that this is all a game, that this is dirty, that there's so much money at play, your money, that unless you vote different, unless you think about politics differently, it won't change.
And no, I agree, but I want to go back to the fraud here, and that's the word widespread. That's one word, right? Okay, we're going to go with it. Widespread was the word that was used because over and over, after all these investigations, there was no evidence of widespread fraud. Okay, so was there small, like slightly spread fraud? You found fraud, but just let's talk about where you found fraud. Here's the right step to get everybody to shh with this whole everything was stolen business. Okay, then where you found the fraud, those people need to be arrested. January 6th style, they need to be held accountable for that fraud. Whoever signed those 4 signatures needs to go to jail and be made an example of. Okay, that's where you start to at least eliminate, okay, they're on to us there. Okay, exactly. We're going to have to go do something else because I will say this very, very firmly. The last presidential election was not stolen, but the Dems rigged the system completely in swing states that have been proven to be unconstitutional, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It was shady. They played outside the rules and they won. Well, I call that cheating, but it's not. I don't know if you want to go stolen. So we can keep our eye out for those maneuvers that are being done and challenge them before the election. That's another way to do this, is see what's happening and immediately challenge it legally. Challenge it. Go. Get into it. Get a group of people. I don't know. Bring a lawsuit. Lord knows I got enough attorneys. Give me a holla. I'll find somebody. But that's a way to get rid of this whole corruption, is to say, hey, we see your game. We see what you're doing. And yeah, it might be your congressman or woman. And you might have to, that might be a tough pill to swallow because of the emotional equity of a vote. So you have all that emotion tied. You might have had a yard sign with their name on it. You know, all your neighbors know you support that person. Tell you what, Dan Crenshaw, a lot of people, was it Dan or Ben? Dan. Dan Crenshaw, a lot of people say, oh, he's a hero. He's lost his eye in war. That man is a crook.
He was a hero.
On the take. He's on the thank you. He's on the take.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how do you back? Oh, I was supporting Crenshaw. I supported Crenshaw. I was all about the guy. I was like, yes, that's what we need. Yes. No, he's an insider trading bozo is what he is. He's in there on the take.
But this is another interesting part too, because it's how people use their past. And often we use it as a predictor of what they're going to be. He's a Navy SEAL. Navy SEALs are honorable men and women. But things change when you go to Congress. And you have the opportunity to buy stocks that government contracts are going to go funneled into 5 days before anybody else knows about it. And he's done it. And Mike and I were adamantly opposed to Nancy Pelosi and her husband doing it. We have to be opposed to Dan Crenshaw. And I think that's that other part of the problem, is that we're unwilling to call out our side when our side becomes like the other side. And we're complaining the other side and their slippery morals. Well, when our side is slippery morals, if we don't defend our own morals, we have slippery morals too, because we're letting things go. And I do want to go back to what you said, Mike, about charging these people that are forging the libertarian signatures, the signatures for the libertarian. It absolutely, 100%. I mean, if you're going to run on this whole idea that there was no fraud, everything was fine, and if there were, we would crack down on it. Well, here's your opportunity, county attorney. Crack down on it in Maricopa County, because the signatures required might not be legit. It could be you need 1,200 signatures to get on the congressional ballot in CD1 and I think across the state. If half of those are forgeries, well, that person doesn't qualify for the ballot.
Yeah. And by the way, grow a spine. Because I know what's happening. You think about the county attorneys and you think about these elected officials or appointed, depending on what level they're on. They're worried about, the county attorney in Maricopa County is now prosecuting people that forged 2 signatures on a ballot, which is the equivalent criminality to stealing a pack of gum. And just trying to then they'll try to discredit that their district attorney, to make it seem like county attorney. Geez, Louise, I need some coffee. Hang tight here. Give me a second. Hold on. All right, we got it. Okay. The county attorney, they're going to try to discredit that county attorney and then stand up and say, grow a spine and say, yeah, do you steal a pack of gum? I want them too. Let's go. It's a crime's a crime. And then by the way, the government, the retailer is not really worried about that pack of gum. The retailer is not really worried about that pack of gum, but us voters, we the people, we are kind of worried about our elections at this point.
Well, and in part because we've been taught that you vote, they count the votes, they count it correctly. There's no gamesmanship outside, but there's always gamesmanship. It's just we don't really talk about it. I mean, go back to the 1960 election, John F. Kennedy. Most likely that was stolen. Most likely the mob helped him win the state of Texas, LBJ, the whole thing. Most likely maybe those same two entities plus the CIA had him killed later, but that's besides the point for now. So this idea that everything is clean when there's this much money and this much power at stake ain't happening. It's the same in sports, right? There's always people trying to cut corners, cut edges. There's always shenanigans going on when the stakes are high. We should expect that because, as Mrs. Hunter likes to say all the time, people gonna people. Not all of us are upstanding citizens. Elections are severe for if you are a Democrat, you want to win, you might get a better job if you help win an election, or if you help Schweikert lose because you forged libertarian signatures for libertarian candidates to get some opposition on the ballot. Like, that's legit things that on a small margin in a close election can matter. In the two states in particular Mike was talking about in 2020 were Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. They basically went outside their lawmaking bodies and let everybody vote by mail and made it so easy to vote that it was overwhelming in both those states that they won. Now, the other challenges and this goes back to the other part, Mike, I think the third factor in this is win elections. You know that they're cheating. You know that they're doing whatever it is that they're going to do. How do you get more votes? Like, that should be the only priority here, because I saw some numbers the other day, both Trump and Biden. More than half the country doesn't like either one of them. Mm-hmm. So all you have to do is one of those candidates is, all right, it's April 7th. I've got till November. How do I make 2% of people like me? What do I have to do? Because to me, that seems to be the messaging that's going to win. Schweiker told us last week, tone matters to 1 to 2% of voters that may or may not vote Republican. And you look at Arizona and Georgia, a lot of investigations, no fraud found, no cheating, Republican legislatures. So they didn't have that option. And then Trump lost by 10,000 votes here and like 16,000 in Georgia. So let's imagine 2024 is a repeat on that. You're talking about 15,000 to 20,000 people in Arizona. All you got to change your minds. In Georgia, 20 to 25,000 people. That seems very doable to me. And you win those states and you win a couple of others. Now you're back in charge. But you also have to win Congress. Because if Trump wins and Congress is the way that it is, Democrats keep the Senate, it's much harder to get the Trump agenda done. Like, we keep thinking, as long as Trump wins, it's all good. No, it's a whole structural system that you need. For example, the 2017 tax cut, which I think is Trump's signature policy achievement, is only possible because Republicans controlled the House and the Senate.
Mm-hmm. But I would go with Del brought up a point. He was talking about the judges, and I think that kind of gets into probably the fourth leg of the stool here, is that we need to. I understand criminal justice reform needed, get it, understand that. Prison reform, got it. I'm just talking about these damn activist judges. Both sides have activist judges. We do. There's hyper conservative judges and there's hyper progressive judges. So how do we get around that? And I think those four things we just discussed would be one hell of a first four steps to getting rid of the corruption in our nation. So it's especially the judge thing is really just eliminate judge shopping in general. I don't know how you do it, but damn. It's like getting these court cases we talked about in Illinois against Glock. How in the world would you find a judge that would even waste anyone's time with that? You find it because you judge shop and you find an activist judge.
And if you're the county attorney, you also have a microphone and a bully pulpit to a degree that if you bring charges and no judge will hear it, you can make a case about that. And I think that that's a big part of it. Can you pull up the Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib video, Mike? Because
here she goes at a Trump event.
Well, and yeah, we'll discuss what I think a good strategy could be in a second.
You guys are crazy.
You're an animal. Get a job.
Well, she has a job, but I mean, I say, okay, Republicans, we got to work on our trash talking. We just really do. I mean, just got to. You go, lady, person, get a job. Yeah. So one more time here, just one more time, sir. Yeah. They start clapping. She gets mad.
You guys are crazy.
You're an animal. Get a job.
Get a job.
She has a job.
Yes. Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
That's the strategy. This is the modern day Democrat Party. The modern day Republican Party is filled with hope, filled with optimism, wants to restore America's economic might, will help get your gas prices to a reasonable level below $3 per gallon again. That's the America the Republicans will create with your help. And you just keep showing all the crazy.
But it's there for the taking, for the love of grief, the whole light at the top of the hill. We're ready. Dawn in America, we're ready for it. The masses want that, some sort of optimism. Yeah, I'm calling out the MTGs, you bozo. You know, stop with your fundraising nonsense. You got enough money, you're in a safe district. Stop. Knock it off. Boebert, I don't even want to get involved with that stuff. And the Matt Gaetzes, and you guys are acting like fools, trying to keep taking out speakers and just why? It's there for the taking. All you have to do is go to that message. Go to that message, so much so that Biden's labor secretary, who, by the way, I want you to hear her. She has the same cadence, volume, and everything of Karine Jean-Pierre. It's like it's weird. It's like they're the same person. It's almost like hearing KJP talk. So she had to go onto the morning shows this morning and say, don't vote for like how cool it was before Biden. Vote on Biden's numbers that we lie to you about. Don't go voting because it was so much better before him. Listen to this bozo. And she does sound like KJP.
Biden has delivered on an infrastructure decade where we're seeing projects, shovels hit the ground in communities all across the country. And it's just, it's irresponsible to suggest anything else. I don't know what to say about that.
I missed the beginning of that.
I say it's unfortunate that some people try to peddle a story for, of nostalgia for something that just wasn't true. I say that, look at the numbers, right?
I look at the numbers. $2.18 a gallon when Trump was exited the White House. And now I'm paying $4.18. That's the numbers I'm going to look at. And yes, I get nostalgic when I think, wow, I used to fill my tank up for under $100. That's pretty cool. I remember those days. Those were great. I remember not worrying about what I'm going to, like, if my account's good for all the bills coming up while I'm filling up my truck. I'm going to vote with nostalgia. And it's so bad that the Biden administration has to go out. Their new tactic is don't vote for all the good performance of the previous administration. Vote on the numbers that we're telling you are true, but you can't feel.
But that's, this is politics, right? This is part of that issue that I talk about, is there is an orthodoxy attached to parties like they are religions, in that no matter what, your religion is right. And I criticize the Catholic Church all day because I grew up Catholic and I'm allowed to. But obviously, there was all kinds of shenanigans in the church that we don't need to repeat. Nobody left the church, though. Nobody was like, oh, sorry, this isn't for me anymore. Y'all are some crazy people. You're covering up pedophilia. You're shipping priests to other locations where they'll probably go molest more kids. Like, that's what orthodoxy is. That's how powerful beliefs are. And in this country, we have become so orthodox in the two parties that 1/3 of people in this country don't even want to pretend they're a Democrat or a Republican. They don't want to say it out loud because of what you're associated with. But because of that, there's that split in the third, right? Kirsten Sinema, as an independent, isn't running for re-election because she didn't think she could win. Because of that, the normal person who understands how deal making works, who understands how life works, you never get all of what you want. It just doesn't happen. In any relationship, in any job, in any situation, primarily, you don't always get everything you want. But we're now believing that we can get whatever we want. And the best way to do that is not the Matt Gaetz way, the Marjorie Taylor Greene way, by just breaking more division because you're making it worse. And you're making it more likely the Democrats will win. You're making it more likely this economic suffering will be prolonged because of their ridiculous economic policies, because you're not thinking about anything beyond yourself. And that's where this orthodoxy comes in, where we get in this trap feeling we have to support this or that, or we're screwed. And then the further it gets, the more deeper the orthodoxy gets, the harder it is to change.
Well, the deeper the orthodoxy gets, because of, I would say a lot of it is media control. Listen to this headline. This is one of the craziest headlines I've seen in a hot minute. So if you think your economy's bad, right? If you think there's something wrong with your economy, here's the headline. What's wrong with the economy? It's you, not the data. You see, it's your fault. It's your fault that we still have, that we still want to buy things. According to the Wall Street Journal, 74% of respondents said inflation has moved in the wrong direction in the past year. You think? Not to, see what Janet Yellen's out there spewing, but it has moved in the wrong direction. But this bozo claims that if you just take, food, fuel, and shelter out of the equation, hell, this whole thing's your fault. This whole thing, so you should feel bad about the economy because it's you. Not the Biden administration, and they're taking on the fossil fuel industry. It isn't the Biden administration just wrecking an entire industry with automobiles, running up house prices. None of that. No. It's you, because if you take out those three key indicators, well, it's because y'all buy too much stuff.
Which obviously creates jobs too, and all these other economic factors. And I this is the frustrating part, that I think Schweikert said it this way. People who are writing these stories about complex economic theories aren't smart enough to write about them. How government works, it's very complex. It's mundane. There's arcane rules of how bills move and legislation happens. Not many people know how to explain that properly. So we try to explain it in the simplest terms possible, but often terms in what Mike just proved to you right there. That person has no clue. Is not an economics major, probably never even took an economics class.
Because writes for the Wall Street Journal, okay?
Yeah, which is, and the Wall Street Journal is one of the final good newspapers left. They don't like Trump much, but as far as news goes and their analysis, it's still pretty good. But to blame, and this is it, to blame you all the time. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. We didn't shut down the world. We didn't cut off supply chains. I wasn't panicked during the pandemic. I was at the beginning a little nervous because I heard these stats that 5% of people were dying out of China. I'm like, that's a high number.
Yeah. Right.
But then when it came down to reality, and I was like, all right, I'm not scared anymore. It's cool. I can go about my business. But that was when the government doubled down. They didn't look at the data that said there was a certain risk category that's getting nailed by this thing. That risk category is the one that should stay home, not the rest of us. And the economy could have kept moving and inflation would have been less. So for that person to blame us, blame you, blame Mike, blame me, obviously ridiculous, because we buy stuff. Yes, that's how the American economy works. That's why it works, because we buy stuff.
Right, but if you take out those three key indicators are quite literally what you need to survive. So if you just take those out, don't worry about the fuel, food, and housing is up all over 50%. Forget that noise. Ask you Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen says, last year there was 6.5% inflation. Now there's only 3.5% inflation. That means that things are still getting more expensive, you bozo. Exactly. What a buffoon. Exactly, Lynn. What a buffoon.
On top of the 20% that we've already paid. So any inflation at this point is horrible.
Yeah, but don't worry about it, though.
This is and this is what 1984, right? What George Orwell warned about is how they changed language, and they go back and change digital records. We've talked numerous times about changing the definitions of words. Yeah, they do it, and you don't even notice it because there's no committee. It just happens. Same thing they did in 1984. They had a little tube. They would send the information that the main character would have to fix, Winston, and you have to edit something out, and you have to resend it. The chocolate rations is one of the famous ones. It used to be 20, but they didn't have enough chocolate, so they knocked it down to 10, and they went back in the history archives and changed the 20 to 10. So it always seemed like you had 10 rations, and you couldn't prove it otherwise because there was no information. And now that information is free and controlled by some small entities or big entities like Google, they can do with the information they want. So a buddy of mine, Adam, Adam, Mike, from Earn It All, he bought a bunch of old books from like the 1930s, encyclopedias, and he's like, the information in here is so different than you get when you Google the same topic. Sure. The facts have not changed in these stories written in the 1930s encyclopedia, but online, completely different. It's very strange.
Well, yeah, I think we are in a combination zone. Kind of if I guess you could switch them. If George Orwell wrote Rules for Radicals, or if Saul Alinsky wrote 1984, because I think that those two books are really what's defining us as a culture. It's Rules for Radicals time with 1984, because radicals are like, ooh, that's a good idea. We can use that. We can use that from 1984, and we can just do it our way, which is the crazy way, the Rashida Tlaib way. And it's just dicey, gets dicier. And then Idiocracy. If you throw the movie Idiocracy in there as well, I think that's a good combination. Rules for Radicals, 1984, and Idiocracy. If you just combine those three, 2024 America.
And I think that we collectively have that sense, Mike, of what you just said, that there is those three things that are pulling on us. And we're like, wait a second. I'm just not ready to give up yet. Like, I feel sometimes that I want to give up. But it's so funny to think about this, because I'm a big fan of Malcolm X. I've studied a lot of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement. And Martin Luther King had a broader message, right? And it worked to move America forward. Whereas Malcolm X had a very important message, particularly to Black people in the 60s, the early 60s. Think about this. His message was self-reliance. That you have to figure out, wherever you're at right now in your life, how to be self-reliant, how to not rely on government handouts, whatever the case may be, because especially as a Black man in the 60s, the conditions for most Black people as far as their relationship to government was not on equal footing to white people. So his message is as true now as it was then. It's just a broader message. Because to me, Mike, getting back to that point about what we can all do as individuals, become self-reliant. Figure out self-reliant. Plus, Malcolm X also preached gun ownership for Black people as well in the early 60s, because that was part of it. Part of being self-reliant is being able to protect your own home. Yeah. So that message to me, Mike, is how we win. We encourage self-reliance. We show people the way on self-reliance, what it means, how to get there in a year, 2, 5, have a plan, etc.
It's funny to say that when you're talking about the guns, because I perked up when you said guns. I'm like, whoa, what? Wait, he's talking about guns. The headlines that we've seen in the past few years, I think basically pandemic to now, is gun ownership in the Black community up 15%. Gun ownership in the Hispanic community up. Gun ownership amongst women up this, like, as if it's supposed to be a scary thing. I gotta tell you, I get to, me, Rob's been in the studio with me when I'm reading these things. I get fired up. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Everybody celebrate your Second Amendment. That's right. And how do we know, by the way? How do we know? Because they get the data from background checks. That means law-abiding citizen, no matter the color of their skin or gender, are practicing their Second Amendment right. And I think that's a damn good thing. So good job, Malcolm, setting the stage back in the day.
Well, and I'll add something to it. I saw it today on Twitter. It was from a month ago, but it was retweeted today. And it was some type of government agency spying on people, because it's incredibly easy to do with the fact that we put all of our opinions out on digital media. So they're keeping track of people that are opposed to firearm restrictions, people that may have said sympathetic things towards January 6th. So whether that's real or not, I mean, it's one of these journalists who you don't work for the Wall Street Journal, but they do their own work. So sometimes it's hard to test the veracity of what they're saying. But given the trends of where the government is going, I wouldn't discount this one and just push it aside, because it is incredibly easier for the government to track people based on technology. I mean, as much as I want this thing to be unhackable. Come on.
Well, I mean, as we were talking to David before we went on the show last week, and he said that the NSA is laying people off. They don't need to spy anymore. They don't need to listen to phone calls. Why? Because they can just buy the information. They can just buy the data from these apps. They use your tax dollars to buy the information that you willingly said, yes, I agree, because you wanted to get played, bubble burst or whatever the heck you wanted to play on your phone. So you said, yes, you can spy on me all day and sell that information whenever you want to sell the information. And they can buy it. So China, this is where this came from, back in the discussion about TikTok. TikTok was like, okay, wait a second. We can still have TikTok. But we just can't get the data. Someone else has to get the data. Okay. Basically, you just saved us. You basically just saved us a bunch of time and effort because we can just go buy the data. We go buy. They're going to sell it just because a company that's American, that's in the United States, has the data. Doesn't mean they're not going to sell it. The Democrats like to talk about oil production. Oil production is up. Oil production is up. What's happening to that? They're selling it. Not to us.
And not putting in the strategic reserve that Biden emptied either.
Please. I don't worry about that. KJP, that answer was the best. I'll send you over to the Department of Energy. That's their job. Fill in the reserves up again. Nope, not a Biden thing. No, not at all. Yeah.
But it's I think it's all right here for us to see. It's up to us. I say this all the time, to figure out how to relay this to our friends. So, good friend of mine, she is a Trump supporter, and she wants to have some people come over her house, and they want to spread the word, right? And I said, okay. And this is the same thing with Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. You don't influence people by telling them they're wrong. You're going to tell them they're wrong, they're going to get defensive, and they're not going to be on your side. You point out the things you have in common. And you don't maybe do it in the first sitting. You just talk. It's like Mike did with me and guns. It took a long time. But I eventually came around. Hopefully it doesn't take that long because it will be 2032 by the time we get there. But you do have to speed it up a little bit. But you fight things from the inside, right? You battle inside. You keep it in-house. You keep the thing united. And you say, this is the direction that we need to move in. And I'm going to educate everyone in my caucus in this direction. Because we've asked Schweikert about that too. And we talk about Schweikert a bit because for me, I've been, again, Mike is the same thing. We've been doing this a long time. The most open politician I've ever met is David Schweikert. And I've met hundreds of politicians, interviewed dozens of politicians. So he's a good reference for us to understand how the whole system works because he teaches us how it works. He says he goes to try to teach people about the numbers, borrowing, spending, debt limits. And they're like, whatever. I know my constituents don't care about that. But he also said the other big thing. This is where we come in. We're afraid for the truth. Americans as a whole, maybe this little group here hanging out with us, Mike and Rob, two guys just kicking it, trying to forge our own path in media because we honestly believe you deserve better than what you get out of all media channels. So we try to dig a little bit deeper, give you an alternative perspective. But it's that point of you have to understand the truth's the truth. The only thing that's going to matter in about 3 to 5 years is debt. Everything else is a sideshow. It all contributes to the debt. I understand that. But the big important number, $1.1 trillion spent on interest alone on our debt. $1.1 trillion. Imagine what you could do with that money if it wasn't debt. If it was $1.1 trillion, you could fix that bridge in Baltimore that a ship crashed into. And we'll fix it in a week. We got it under control. We're fine. You could invest in public education, and you could maybe have a curriculum of life skills to teach kids to be self-reliant from the age of 6. I mean, not that they should be self-reliant at 6, but you start teaching them things about their mind, how it works at the age of 6. So they ain't worried about government by the time they're 22.
And I think go back to the old days. When we talk about the kids in the next generation, go back to the old days. What were you told when you told your parents that somebody called you a name or somebody made fun of you? Just words. Words don't hurt you, right? We don't really teach a lot anymore. We actually teach the words are like weapons. Words are like knives. Words can hurt just as much as some kind of weapon. No, they cannot. If we let them, and we understand the game is words now. Rob will come with me on this. The game is language. How you say things. Like, remember, there was no widespread fraud. There was no nationwide fraud. There was lots of little frauds, but no widespread fraud. If you say widespread, then there you go. You get away with it. Remember, they talk about the deadly insurrection. Cops died, they said. It's their language. And listen to this. We covered this, that Joe Biden raised $25 million thanks to, in one event, thanks to Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Lizzo, and Stephen Colbert. Okay? Star-studded event, right? 25 million, record. Donald Trump said, hold my non-alcoholic beer. and just had an event at his house, Mar-a-Lago, but just an event at his house. $50 million. Doubled it. Now, the Biden administration gets their word police out there because now we got to use the words that mean something because we just got smoked. And the media's left, they were fawning all over the $25 million haul. And this is it. This shows the unification. This shows what the country really wants this. Oh, $50 million for Trump. Oh, let's see what the Biden administration has to say about that.
As important is how they are raising it. He's down in Mar-a-Lago tonight with a bunch of billionaires, people like John Paulson, who not only wants to cut Social Security, but he's famous for, as a hedge funder, rooting against the American economy, betting against the American economy. So I guess it's no surprise that he's investing in somebody like Donald Trump, who's rooting for the economy to crash. But the whole lot of them is a bunch of billionaires, scammers, extremists, and racists.
Billionaires, extremers, scammers, and racists. That's what okay. So yeah, sure, he got 50 million, but they probably were wearing MAGA hats. They're racists. They're white supremacists. Just go back to the language, man. That's all it is. So the best thing, again, if we want to get out of this, teach your kids, young kids. See, my girl's in college. My niece is just married, starting her career. Words ain't gonna hurt you. Words need to be watched out for, but words are meant to manipulate. They're going to hurt you, but they can manipulate you. So guard your mind, guard your ears, watch that manipulation. And once you start to see that manipulation, you're going to be immune to it.
And that's that self-reliance, that most important step, Mike, that is so incredibly important, which brings me to the next thing. You and I were debating whether or not to talk about this, but let's do it. Because it all ties in together. This is Diddy. Let's talk about Diddy for a second. So P. Diddy, we talked about him last week. They raided like 9 of his houses. Got a lot of houses. They raided them all. Supposedly there's sex trafficking involved, but nothing's happened since then. What's it been? 3 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? Yeah, I don't know. Well, and that's what I'm like, what is actually going on here? Because you told me about this video Diddy came out with today and just named a bunch of names.
Had his nephew or niece or something on his lap, and he was just naming the names of basically stuff he has dirt on. And I'm sorry, I didn't get to cut it up before we jumped on, but because it's a report that plays Diddy in the middle, and Diddy's talking about Jay-Z, Lizzo, Usher. I mean, huge names in the industry. Oprah basically said, "I'm coming after you if y'all don't answer my phone call. I'm going to go live, and I'm going to show the world what's going on." And whether that happens or not, but this sure as heck was a warning shot. I'll say that much, which you really don't get if you try to break into my house. I don't do warning shots, just to let everybody know. But this was a P. Diddy warning shot to the peeps. Unless you call and let me know that we're going to circle the wagons here and you're going to get me out of this, you're going to help get me out of this and throw your weight behind it, I'm going to chuck you right under the bus.
See, I want something to happen. Because it always, and that's why it gets so frustrating. Get back to really the theme, I think, Mike, of today's entire conversation is, there's a term that if you're a guy and a woman continues to tease you, a color blue is involved with the body part. That's what I feel like with all these stories. There's never any happy ending. It's all just talking. You're just teasing us. There's this evil cabal of Illuminati right there. We're so close to finding out the truth because Diddy came out and gave a video, and then the world will go silent, and Diddy will never get charged, and nothing will ever happen. Because we have it, Mike. Blue. We're all blue.
Oh my gosh. Being in politics is a painstakingly arduous task that seems to go on and on forever. And just when you think something's going to happen, nothing happens. Holy mackerel. Wow.
So that's my
Pelotas
equivalent.
azul is what he's talking about to our friends from the South.
Exactly.
Just Rob just getting teased and just no release. Wow. That there you go. Yeah, and agree. I mean, and that's why they're tying him like same thing to Epstein. So it's going to happen. Did he going to go, get suicided and then away just goes away? I don't know if he can. Is he too big? No one knew who Jeffrey Epstein was. No one outside of the DC elite bubble. I mean, the New York elite bubble. No one knew who he was. But everybody knows who Diddy is. Worldwide fame.
Remember there was a DC Madam list. I want to say 2004 or 5, somewhere in there. And the reason I remember it, because there was a senator in Louisiana, David Vitter, who was on the list. And David Vitter was Christian conservative. I'm like, okay, but he's getting his rocks off with a prostitute. But it impacted his career. He later ran for governor. I don't know. I might have even been in 2020. And he lost because those allegations still hang around with him and he can't get out of there. Meanwhile, fine, you want to go to a prostitute? All right, technically I get it. It's illegal. I don't care. What I do care about if that prostitute is 16 or forced into it. That's a different story. And this is something we always talk about as a quote unquote society, how much we want to protect kids. Unless rich and powerful people do horrible things to those kids, then we're like, it's just the way the world works. So do we just care in name only? Because that's what it seems like to me. And I wonder if our moral center is off because all we say all the time is how much we care. Great. Where's the action? Because if I'm not a big fan of having big prisons, but if there's people that do that kind of stuff, that's what prisons are for. That's literally what they're built for. But yeah, we're like, it's fine. Who cares?
There's some special treatment they get when they get into prison too, if they go for that reason.
Well, they get treated like they treated other people in, the worst case scenario.
Yeah, golden rule, isn't it? Del, you nailed it, buddy. Sorry. Yep. Government is gathering evidence on Diddy to destroy it.
Well, and if they don't put it out, but let's imagine that that's a theory that's out there and you want it to be true or not to true. Without actually going forward with it, that thought and that belief stays. If there's no action, there needs to be an answer as to why. And Dell's right. If there is no answer, it does seem like a powerful, rich cover-up because this is
Epstein obviously was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And look at Epstein still getting covered for it. I think I forget. Maybe Dan was asking about that one. But we'll never see the client list of Epstein. Even the has-beens in who's Cuomo's brothers on CNN? Which one was that?
Chris.
Which Cuomo's Chris Cuomo?
Yeah,
Chris Cuomo. Now he's doing his now he's doing his streaming thing or whatever he's doing, and God bless him. Do your thing, buddy. He asked the question, why do we care who was on Epstein's client list? Why do we even want to know? He basically was insulting anyone that would want to know who's on Epstein's client list. So even the D-listers are running cover for these morons that were on Epstein's client list.
Or they all have suspicious moral backgrounds and don't really care.
I tell you this, I'll give you this much, and I firmly believe this, and I could be completely wrong. This is where my gut goes. My gut goes on this one, and you can call it a conspiracy theory all you want. The Clintons are doing really well financially after Epstein was suicided. So I believe that Bill just took over the family biz. I have no, in my gut, it's telling me that's where all the arrows are pointing. Will we ever see evidence of that? Most likely never. At least maybe our grandkids will. But yeah, Diddy might be another damn cover up that we just have to get Rob a big set of pelotas azul.
Yeah. And that's what it seems like it is to me all the time with all these allegations. And it's endless now because it's constant. It's not even 24-hour news. It's 24-hour phones because we're all connected on our phones. We're all on social media. So these allegations fly around all the time, but there's never any action on it. Even going back to the libertarian story in Congressional District 1, and if you did miss it, you joined us just now. Hi, thanks for being here. And there are allegations that there's progressive organizations faking people's signatures to get a libertarian on the ballot in hopes they draw Republican support away so the Democrats can win. That's actual voter fraud and silent, right?
Yep.
I know that there's only so many resources in each office to do investigations. I get all that. And they got to pick and choose. I get all that too. But these are major allegations. This is potential to change an election. That if you're trying to get on a ballot, you got to go do the work and get the signatures on the ballot or hire people to get the signatures for you. That's the way the system works. But if you're an organization that's like, I don't care, let's just forge this and nobody will ever check it. That's the crazy part about that is it's all right here for us to see. And there's not much we can do about it unless we do it together. Unless we goes way back to what Mike says, right? We get our minds right. We know we're being propagandized. We know when they're trying to mess with our emotions to get us to react a certain way. That's that self-reliance that is required in this modern society, that you're bombarded by things 24 hours a day and your synapses are firing and your dopamine's hitting. And all these things are really meant to keep you off your game, but you got to stay on your game.
Eddie, Rob is in Florida. Yeah, and that's not a window behind him. That's just a dresser. It does look like a window, like it's kind of like it's dark outside.
It is dark.
Good catch, by the way. It is dark outside in Florida. That's 3 hours ahead of us. So, but yeah, let's switch it up a little bit. What do you think? The women's tonight is the men's NCAA final game. So, okay, go whoever. Okay. I used to be really fired up about it because they play that at the end of the they play one shining moment, that little like highlight reel of the tournament. Oh, I love that. That's America left and right there. That's just good. Yeah. So I'll find that online tomorrow. But I won't be looking for it tonight. But over the weekend, the queen was dethroned. Caitlin Clark, who we talked about, Caitlin Clark, her team lost in the finals. And to South Carolina, go Gamecocks. And my actually brother Steve used to be a South Carolina University cop. Yeah, he was a cool guy. He's just like, give those drunk kids a ride home. Really, all he did. He wasn't that kind of guy. He's a good dude. They're out here being young and dumb. If they're not hurting anybody, I don't care. So the coach, South Carolina coach, was given, and by the way, South Carolina coach on the court during the interview with the trophy presentation and all that, thanked Caitlin Clark for elevating the sport. Basically, just parsed all of the noise of, oh, this is she getting attention because she's a white girl. Oh, she wouldn't be able. She's doing this against black people. It's this. I'm like, come on. They made it. They turned it into this identity politics nonsense. All these stupid talking heads. She's just a girl that can play basketball. Who cares? Whatever. Good. Fantastic. So this coach, good for her for stepping up above the noise. Even the players were bagging on Caitlin Clark, but coach said, hey, listen, say what you will. Everyone was talking about this game. If it weren't for Caitlin Clark, no one would have been talking about this game. Okay. So she wins, height of her coaching career. You win. You're a college coach. You win the tournament. That's it. That's the tippity top Girl Scout. That's the biggest spot you can have right there.
Undefeated season too. Very rare.
So you look at this, you look at the press conference, and this is the absolute, just a prime example of the fall of journalism, because I have no idea. And I saw this on Fox as well. And Fox was cheering the reporter. No, let's listen in here.
Women's basketball, women's sports in general. One of the major issues facing women's sports right now is the discussion topic about the inclusion of transgender athletes, biological males in women's sports. I was wondering if...
Stop right there. Stop. Why? No. How about this? What is undefeated season? You're losing 4 seniors. What's the bench strength look like? You ask a sports question to a sports person, and God love her. She just, again, the top honor in her, the top accomplishment, in her sport is doing what she just did moments prior, and you want to pull transgender rights into this. Please just stop. She goes on to answer.
I mean, that's the end of it. I mean, it's there. I remember the story we did on Russell and Hunter, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, where several news outfits, I think CBS News was one of them, they had people come in and train the newsrooms how to write stories so that they focused on race. I even saw one today from somewhere that made the Eclipse about race and how.
What?
I don't even. Yeah, it was something to do in Texas.
Does it goes from white to black? What? I don't get it. How does that work? I don't understand how it's about race.
Blocked black students from accessing science course. I don't know. It was so stupid. I didn't even read the article.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
And this is another reason why it gets back to what Mike and I are saying is that we just feel that you deserve better conversation, deeper conversation with a little bit more complexity, because life is not Twitter. It's not X, regardless of who runs it. X is a place of trash talking, and it's glorious for what it is, but just treat it for what it is. Exactly. And, you know, it doesn't. Well, and but I mean, it's to recognize to me, like, what is its role? Its role is there to really entertain us. It could inform us, and in some ways it does, but recognize what that is. It's not going to change the world, I don't think. It could. It's led to Arab Springs and whatnot, but it just seems to be fighting to me. And go back to the South Carolina thing. There just seems to be millions of people who are activists first.
Yeah. She actually answered the question.
Tell me your position on that issue.
Nope. That's your answer. Nope.
Damn, you got deep on me, didn't you? I'm under the opinion of
dang. Say
if
no.
you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play.
Okay. Again, the answer to that is very simple. You know what? I'm just celebrating my team. If you want to talk about my team, they just won a national title, undefeated season. If you want to talk about that, it's great. If you want to set up a time, we can talk about this stuff offline. But right now is not the time, dude. Put these people back. These reporters are not the end-all, be-all. They've just shown themselves to be a bunch of bozos anyway. So take the control back of that. You don't have to answer a question that some stupid reporter tries to get you in some gotcha moment. Just say, hey, listen, I'm here to celebrate my girls. Undefeated season national champion. We just took the queen down. We just dethroned the queen, Caitlin Clark, and you want to talk about transgender movement? How about we do that some other time? How about we talk about my girls? That's how you answer the damn thing. Why don't people call the Russell and Hunter consulting firm a little bit more before they answer these damn questions?
For real. Because, you know, that proves where we're at, right? I actually saw something in New York Times, of all places, that quoted someone as saying, and they were pointing this quote out because it's the scarlet letter approach. This is how I don't know why I'm going back to all this literature references, because authors like Nathaniel Hawthorne and George Orwell are trying to teach us things. Guys, don't do this. The scarlet letter approach to politics. You ask a question like that, and you want to make sure that they're on your team. If not, you brand them forever with the scarlet letter that they're anti-trans. That's what the goal is. So this New York Times bit talked about how there was a conversation between the liberal and the conservative, and they were discussing things, and the liberal thought the conservative was actually pretty well-reasoned until they said they were pro-life. It was that one issue, after having this entire conversation and actually not disagreeing on all these issues, that one issue that the liberal said, I thought you were a good conservative. That's the scarlet letter approach to politics. Well, and it's baseline emotional. It's orthodoxy, right? If you're a Protestant, you believe Protestant beliefs. You're Catholic, you believe Catholic beliefs. You're Jewish, you believe whatever sect of Jewish religion you're in. Muslim, same thing. You're Sunni, you're Shiite, you're a Kurd. You have certain beliefs, and several people are orthodox in that and never deviate from that. Politics is no different, because all religions are on a base level, same as politics. It's a belief system. Rules, the way the world works, the way the world should work, the way God works, whatever it is. And if you're going to play that you're in the bad religion because you don't agree with 100% of my beliefs. That's what's happening to so many young people, which is, so I had our friend Malcolm, I had lunch with the other day, Mike. It was a 6-hour lunch. Because that's what you do when you hang out.
At Joyride too. At Joyride too, and I didn't get the invite. I'm a little upset about that, but we'll talk about that offline.
Malcolm and I had some catching up to do. And one of the things he talked about was how often labeled he is. Malcolm's a young black man. He's just an awesome, awesome human being. He's been on the Brewmance podcast, and I encourage you to go back down the list and listen to the couple episodes we did with him and our other friend Ryan Hale and Malcolm. And he was, labeled as this, and he's labeled as this, and he's labeled as this, and he's labeled as this. And I'm like, dang, y'all, make it so hard on yourselves with the qualifications that you constantly have to meet.
For sure. And understand, Malcolm's a damn good looking man. He is. Like, how old are you? I got a daughter or whatever. I mean, just like, he's the type of dude you'd want your daughter to date.
Yep.
And he's got the badass cool hair. Like he's just such a good soul and just a light soul, and just has wonderful life stories, and just a good human being. But a lot of it in this stuff about you talk about the labels and all the boxes you have to check as a man his age right now, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. But that goes back to what we talked about with basically your own self-reliance and just basically taking care of you. You gotta rise above that and understand, if you don't want to see a LGBTQ gay parade going down your street, that doesn't make you anti-gay. It doesn't make you homophobic. It doesn't make you transphobic. So if people call you transphobic because the parade went by while you were trying to have a Bible study in your living room, okay, it's okay for you to be against that parade and not be a transphobe or a homophobe. The kids, Malcolm's age, need to understand that, again, the manipulation of this is the only purpose of the language that they're using, all this phobia, this and that. And once they realize that, they'll stop holding themselves to that standard and just go on being a good person like Malcolm is.
And that, I think, is at the end of it, right? It's understanding, and I love going back to this, Mrs. Hunter, people going to people. People have been peopling since people were people, which means we're all quirky, we're all weird, we all get triggered by different things. I accept that. I try my best to accept that you show up to me as your real self. My job is to show up as my real self and try not to worry about yourself unless you're going to commit some harm upon me. Like, if you're going to be you, awesome. I want you to be you, and I'm going to accept you as you, whether you agree with me or not. I'm not going to call you a name because you voted for a different congressional candidate.
And understand, you should know you. So you is all you should care about. And I don't mean to be a narcissistic person, myopic thinking. I'm not trying to pull you into that, but if you know that you are not homophobic, that you are not racist, and you know that in your mind, and someone labels you that, that's fine. Okay, well, go ahead and label that. I know me. And it just to fall out of that trap would just be such an amazing thing for this generation that's so worried about what they're labeled, what they're called. I mean, look, the world is a brutal place. I've been told several times that, well, you can't say that, especially with my kids. Dad, you can't say that. That's homophobic, or that's transphobic, or that's racist. No, what I said was insensitive. And I said it in an insensitive way. It's fact, but it's insensitive. And I can be insensitive. I'm an outdoorsman. Nature is brutal. Nature is evil. They just found a new scorpion in California in the desert that wants to kill you. Everything out there wants to kill you. Life is tough. Life is hard. And this whole sensitivity thing on ourselves, the sensitive nature of like, oh, we can't say that because we're going to get labeled that, or, oh, he called me that. Oh my gosh, am I racist? No, you're speaking you, and do that. It's going to get us out of a lot of problems. We're fixing problems today.
I love it because that's the same thing. Go ask the people that know Mike the best what they would label him. The people that know me, the people that know you, Lynn, Greg, Rhonda, Deanna, the people that know you the best know who you are. It's very easy the further away you get from that to label you. So that's what I would say, I wish we actually had more politicians who actually had real friends, because then we could go ask them. Because some of the politicians I met don't seem like they have any real friends because they're afraid to say something that might come back and hurt their image. So they keep people in a weird arm's distance. And I think that that's pretty sad, because if you were able to ask those friends, hey, how is so-and-so? Oh, you know what? He's a really good person. Yeah, he says some crass things once in a while, but he always does the right thing. Cool.
Sure. Power, vanity, money. Remember, Schweiker tells us all DC is power, vanity, money. Vanity part is what Rob is talking about here. They do have friends, but they're on their payroll. See, all these politicians, they have a budget to have staff, and that staff is desperate to cling on to that job. And they, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, yes, oh, of course, yes, that is definitely the right move there. That. They are surrounded by people that just stroke their ego. It's not like an athlete, a pro athlete, a big name pro athlete, has got his entourage with him all the time. Think they're telling him no? You think they're saying no to that dude? No, they're not. It's the gravy train right there. So do you think that guy ever thinks he says anything wrong? Nope. Not at all. It's all a bunch of nonsense is what it is. Anyway, just know you're a good person. I know y'all are good people. Everybody's hanging out with us here. Y'all are good people. Rob's a good person for the most part. And I'm a good person for the most part. And I was wondering, I thought you were actually going to say those who know Mike, and the word redneck just kept popping up, but it's okay. But that doesn't offend me, because you're redneck phobic.
I mean, I have a red face. I got a red face.
Yeah, red face phobic. That's right. Oh, Rob's in red face. That's going to be the head. Rob Hunter does red face. Rob Hunter does red face.
Bring him down. Cancel him.
Yeah, you got to cancel him now. Oh, my gosh. All right, let's get the heck up out of here. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with us. That was too much dang fun. We got to do this more like this a little more often. I hope you like this format. Rob and I kind of changing up, because Rob and I have our best conversations when we just show up and start talking. That doesn't mean we don't prepare for the show. We always prepare for the show. But to the level of detail and what we're going to talk about, we just let it flow. And we hope that you guys can help us flow, navigate with us, be our little rudder, steers where you want us to go, what you want to hear about. And we'd love to weigh in and talk about it with you right here on Russell and Hunter's The Brewmance. So have a great night, everybody. But Rob, I know you're on the East Coast, buddy. It's probably your bedtime. So I appreciate you hanging out with us. And we'll see you right here on Friday, the nooner. Russell and Hunter's The Brewmance, the nooner, Friday, right here on whatever channel you're on. X, Facebook, YouTube. Let's go. Have a great night, everyone.